Thanks for joining us here for this episode of Colorado Conversations. I'm Andrea Henderson, morning anchor for FOX31 Morning News. I'm joined here by Kari Williams, who's the owner and head cider maker for Snow Capped Cider. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And this is so cool because we hear so much about, breweries and beer. You don't talk to as many people who are in the cider side of things. So just give me a little bit of background, I guess. Just how did this whole thing get started?
Well, we're fruit growers primarily, so apple growers specifically. We do grow some other fruit, peaches and a few things, but for the last 100 years my family has grown, packed, marketed apples out of the Surface Creek Valley, and today are the largest apple growers in the state of Colorado. So the foundation obviously was already there. I really wasn't slotted to become the cider maker. I guess I was the farmer's wife with other interests and degrees and backgrounds and things, but yeah, it's kind of a really magical story. People say, why don't you tell me your story? And I say, I don't have a story, I can just tell you about my life.
Okay.
And so
let's talk
my
about
cider life.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So you grew up and your family grew apples, so you kind of, this is just where it led you a little bit?
Yeah,
I guess just tell me your story.
We're a 5th generation orchard. It's my husband's family. Our kids are 5th generation fruit growers. So yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone in the family is interested in, works in the businesses or farms or works in growing wine grapes or one of the other outlets that we do. We're an integrated company where we grow the fruit, we market the fruit in our family, we pack it in our own packing company, we ship it out, mostly in our own trucking. So that has been going on for over 100 years without selling an apple to a farmer's market. So what really kind of shifted for me was, and we make wine as well, like for a hobby. So when in our free time, which is none, we make wine and we call that like our hobby. And I make wine as well. I just don't market it like I do cider. I'm very passionate about cider. And realistically, I think just watching the family grow at the elevation, we grow between 6,130 and 7,000 feet as the highest elevation orchards. It's very hard to grow there. Lots of reasons, but it's a very tumultuous type of growing season. And I've watched my family work so hard at it and all the things that they have to do in comparison with other regions where they also grow fruit in large fruit growing areas. And realistically, the curiosity really is what led me into cider. We grow very premium fruit. We're in a niche market in our terroir. And the terroir is, and how it relates and affected the fruit that we grow and allows my family to pack it out of that little valley and sell it at a premium price for over 100 years, is what started leading me into cider. It wasn't like, well, I'm gonna go into cider for a bunch of money or I'm going to anything. It was like, I'm going to make cider and figure out how to grow cider-specific apples, and I want to do trials and research on how UV exposure affects it. And is it like wine? And is there something to our terroir that is truly different? And how will that relate to the fruit that I can grow? And that's really kind of how it started.
That's cool how it kind of evolved. So how long have you been involved in the orchard? Because you said it was your husband's family, so I don't know if you guys have known each other your whole life, or how long have you been involved in it?
Long time, but never really, went out and worked on the farm. Was really, like I said, I was the fruit grower, I'm the farmer's wife, and so. Today, moving forward, I have my own orchards for Snow Capped Cider, and together with my husband, I manage picking times for specific varietals, and I'm there when things are coming onto the dock. We're in a state cidery, so I'm very involved with the whole process. That's what really makes it so fascinating and so wonderful for me to be in cider, is I have such a rare opportunity to be involved with everything from the growing season at that elevation and all the things that have to happen, from planting trees to watering. We have direct snow melt water from the Grand Mesa, where my family spent over 60 years piping it to our orchards. It's gravity fed. There's no water treatment stops. It's pure. It's wonderful. There's so many really fun intricacies that go into everything about the growing season, and I get to be part of that, and that really shows up in cider making and the choices that I make in bottles and what varietals I'm bringing forward and what I'm really excited about, and that's what really leads me to win awards and to all those things, although it is secondary to, I feel, how important it is you know, to be involved with the entire process from the beginning to selling it.
Yeah. Well, you have such a unique, I guess, experience or perspective on it, because I'm sure, you know, a lot of other people who make cider, but they're getting their fruit from somewhere else. But you are literally growing the fruit, so you see it from the very start to the very end, and I'm sure that's unique.
And having, you know, the growing expertise that we've learned at that elevation over generations really shows up. Like, you know, my husband will say, okay, I think this block you're gonna maybe want to try a little bit more acid, or try this or try that, because the water's been here this year, or the heat was here. And over 100 years, you know, our growing methods, we've learned to track those things and how it relates to the end product. And that's extremely helpful for me. Yeah. Not only just having the fruit, because, you know, a lot of people don't, and that make this type of product are not involved with it from the time that they're planting a tree till the time that they're selling the product. Yeah. And that's just a luxury that I have, and it's something that I feel is really special in cider making. No, I don't have to order juice. We juice on site. Yeah. I juice from the beginning of early galas clear into February, 6 days a week, to have enough product to work with. And then I have the chore of moving it around, freezing it, moving it, fermenting it, storing it, bringing up, you know, and make cider even in my core line in the can with the different apples. I don't have just one juice base. And it's incredibly labor intensive to do what we do. I love it. I feel like it's important. I feel like the passion that I have for cider and talking about the history of this historic beverage and things that we are kind of losing track of in modern day making, I think is so important. And that really what kind of drives me. And I think it's awesome to hand us 600 pounds of lemons to a cider.
That's amazing.
I'm a little bit of a purist, but I can be, and that's what's truly important to me, is to making a fine product with whole ingredients and real fruit and, you know, quality.
It's the real deal.
That's really important to me, and talking about the stories that come with, you know, apples from the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century, and people making cider, you know, over 100 or 200 years ago. And bringing those varietals forward and showing it to you and telling you what the flavor profile is and what it should be. And it's also grown, you know, at a tremendous elevation, whereas most historical, you know, cider makers from England and France are at sea level. So it's quite extraordinary. And you can hear that I just get so excited about it. It truly is. It truly is what gets me out of bed every single day.
Clearly, you know, in the right business.
Right.
How passionate you are about it. Did you ever expect? Because you said, I mean, I can only imagine like how much work you have put into this. Did you ever expect when you first, you know, had this idea, how much work it was going to be? Because I'm sure it's nonstop.
No, I didn't. I just only seen the picture of what I wanted to do, and I just wanted it and worked at it so hard every day, and my team works at it with me every day, and I didn't really think about, well, you know, if we hand zest and we juice on site and we do this and we spend the money to grow and the labor and whatnot, I'm not going to have this amount of profit for modern styles of cider making or whatever. I never even thought about it. I only thought about what I wanted from it. So no, it is labor intensive from the growing aspect to juicing on site, and then once I get the fruit, like I said, it's very complicated. It's a lot of warehousing, it's a lot of planning, it's a lot of forecasting for not only my Colorado accounts, but I've moved into a couple other small states. So now I have to forecast that volume on the crop and the yield that's coming in all the time. So it is difficult. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I'm right there on the dock when a special varietal comes in, and I'm so excited, and I'm just sucking the juice out of it on the dock. And I'm already planning, like, I already know if it's going to be a pitched ferment or a wild or natural ferment, or what I'm going to do with it. And some things I don't bring forward right away. Some things I age 2 or 3 years before I release them. So I have that luxury of time in a way. So that's really fun.
And it's cool, one, how passionate you are about it. But did you, I mean, because it's a little bit of everything, it sounds like. You got science, obviously, in it. You got some math. You obviously marketing. Like, you're covering all the bases. How did you, when did you first, I guess, start? Because I'm sure, like, when you first started and when Snow Capped Cider opened are different times. Like, how did you even know how to do this? Just a lot of research?
I really didn't. I wasn't I don't have a fermentation science degree. I do have a degree in marketing and business and things, and I've worked in the family's other businesses and different things. I wasn't slotted, and I was like, so it's very funny how it came about. We were at a barbecue for my father-in-law, and somebody bought some cider, and you know, we love wine and food and restaurants, and we've been a little bit into those things, and I love to cook. And so somebody brought some cider to a family event, and it was like, look at this, isn't this so cute? Look, it has a picture of an orchard, isn't this awesome? Yeah. And I think we all tried it, and we were like, well, I don't know if that's good.
Yeah, like, do I like that?
And so, so we started experimenting as a hobby with it. Well, let's try to make some and see if we can do a little better than that, or what apple varietals or whatever. And we already had the varietals because over 100+ years of growing, you know, my family has had to grow for fresh pack grocery and to sell it and to get it out of that small valley. It's very remote. It's in an odd little place at the bottom of the largest flat top mountain in the world on the western slope of Colorado. It's a tiny town, tiny demographic, tiny area. So, you know, over the years, we've had different styles of apples, and they've constantly had to replant for yield and whatever's popular in fresh pack grocery, meaning eating apples, hybrid apples. Yes, you can make cider with those. That's called modern cider. That's generally what the market is filled with. Cider made with modern eating varietals. But over the time and all these different orchard locations, we have had heirloom apples and apples that are better for making cider than that. And so I quickly started researching and figuring out that we had a lot of things, not only just apples, but even better apples. And I wanted to figure out how to do that and what to do with them. And so we started making cider in the back of one of our other businesses. And we made wine, so we had a wine license. And we wanted to make like Spanish style cidres and things in bottles, and we had all 750 bottles. And you know, after a while, we were, you know, on one license with the family, and they were kind of looking at my husband and I like, what are all these bottles showing up, and what is all this stuff, and what are you doing? You need to, are you making this a business, or what are you doing? Are you spending money, or what are you doing? And so eventually we had to kind of get off that license in order to do that, because it really wasn't doing anything. And it was never an intention to be a marketed cidery or to sell to distribution or anything. It really wasn't the plan. And we just kept going along with it until eventually I had to get a few accounts. We had to start selling a little bit to pay for the bottles.
All the stuff
and
that goes
I had
into
to open it up, and we did. And you know, I just sort of hit the road, and we started a self-distribution territory, and that's kind of how it started. And one thing, just even at that point, it really, my focus was always on making these products I wanted to make. I wanted to make the products.
You're like,
but what happened is,
in
order to make the products, I kept needing to try to get money to make the products. And even though I was working in it full time, and I started doing festivals and serving and driving to Denver and all the things and it just, one thing kind of led me to the next thing. And it really wasn't that I was trying to do all those things, but I sort of had to do the things I wanted. And it just has kept going, and eventually I decided to take the move and take the bottle products and go into cans. And I could not associate fine cider, even at that point, with cans. And so we bought a canning line, and it sat in our apple packing facility. That's where I make cider. I had a little closet in the back, you know, a little corner.
You couldn't, like,
and my family was kind of like, oh, isn't she cute? You know, that's funny. She's making, it's funny. Kind of like that. And my husband was kind of helping me and whatnot. And I don't think he really realized where I was headed at that point. But I was headed there. And I finally, the canning line sat in our facility for a year before I touched it. And until I really could figure out how I wanted to represent the brand and be in cans and what I really wanted to put in there. And so that's kind of how it started. I started selling cans to pay for bottles. Still, I was just focused on high-end cider.
A product,
and and how do I make really fine cider and present it in a can? And I've done that. Today I have French and English cider-specific apples in cans. I have apples from the 18th century England in cans.
Wow.
I have modern ciders. We do botanical ciders, and truly, we make a huge bandwidth of styles. Probably one of the largest in the nation as far as different styles of cider. So yeah, it just kind of
amazing.
Started snowballing, and I started doing more research and more things, and things just kind of have rolled. And honestly, I'm still in that pattern.
You're still researching.
I'm still
learning.
Just researching and doing trials and bringing in new varietals and focusing on all types of research and selling wonderful cider.
It's amazing.
And it's really fun. So
okay, we have to take a quick break. And we'll be right back. There's so many more questions to ask you and to talk about. We'll be right back. Colorado Conversations here. Sorry, we're just yapping and talking about the ciders. So yeah, we were talking about kind of the background and just how it came to be. And you said, I don't know how many years ago when you first came up with this idea, and you've just been researching and developing cider since.
Yeah.
And we have some of your products here. I know you brought a bunch of them in. So let's go ahead. Let's just talk about some of the ones we have on the table, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So we have a couple things on the table. This is a new release in Colorado this year. This is blueberry lemon drop, kind of a cocktail twist on a modern style cider that is culinary eating apples, base, blueberry, and hand-zested lemons. So it's really nice sugar acid balance. We have an English cider, Kingston Black, which has won a ton of awards. I have Kingston Black in a can. You'll notice it's 8.5% ABV. Snow Capped Cider does not make imperial ciders. So when you see a cider for Snow Capped Cider in a can, and it is a high ABV like that, over 8%, that is natural occurring ABV. That is two things that are causing that. That is not me forcing it to be higher alcohol with sugar or other methods. That is a single varietal English bitter sharp cider apple from the 18th century. It's one of the most famous single varietal cider apples to make a single varietal. Oh, wow. It's very fun to have in a can. It's very, very fun.
Is that one of your favorites?
It's a really fun, completely dry cider.
Yeah.
I think it's just very very unique to see a company putting that type of fruit and distributing it on that level.
Yeah.
And I have Kingston Black in my reserve bottle line, different versions of it, a barrel-aged version that has been #1 barrel-aged for several years. It's really awesome. So the 8.5% ABV is caused from the UV exposure at our elevation, because that UV exposure is amping up not only the sugar profile in our fruit, it is raising tannin levels by 30% opposed to people who grow at sea level. And so with cider apples, especially tannic versions like this, you're going to get a higher ABV naturally. So when you see a high ABV cider from me, this is not some type of tricky thing that is making
you're forcing it
to be at high ABV. This is a natural occurring ABV.
Awesome.
Same with this Gold Rush. Gold Rush is a blend of French and English cider apples. So these apples are French bitter sweets and English bitter sharps only grown for cider making. These are not edible apples.
Oh, really?
This is a different style of cider entirely from just modern cider making, sweet or dry, botanical or flavored or whatever. These are flavored 100% just from the varietals that I've blended in the way that I've blended them. So that's really fun to have that. This is a really unique cider. This is just a new cider I released this year. This is called Mountain Rose. This is actually an authentic red-fleshed, whoops, I'm turning it the wrong way, red-fleshed cider apple. This was a chance seedling from Oregon. We grow in Colorado. Awesome. A real rosé cider, and this is a sparkling cider. A real rosé cider is deriving 100% of its color from the inside of the apple being red.
Oh, interesting.
So there's different varietals, and this is a single varietal, Mountain Rose or Arley red-fleshed apple. And so that's really fun and unique. Wine sap on the other side, I think of what you pulled, is an early colonial American apple, and it is a transitional apple that you can still eat, very popular for cider making in its day. I mean, there are beautiful romanticized stories about it being preferred over French wine in its day. It is lovely, it is sweet, it is also won a ton of awards, and it's really fun. I also have that varietal in a can.
Oh, okay.
So I love saying, okay, bottles are harder to sell. They're harder to understand. They're harder for a restaurant to open a bottle like this and serve this at a table, although it definitely belongs there. But I love to put those types of varietals in cans so that the consumer can understand that there are historical apples that come from 100, 200 years ago that are historically cider apples, not edible, very hard to grow. And those flavor profiles are coming from those varietals. And it gives the consumer a completely different experience in cider. This is a unique flavor profile that's 100% dry, but it is getting it from that Kingston black apple. Oh, wow. Not from blueberries.
So how many different, how many different varieties or like types do you have? Because I know you had a whole cart over there of different kinds, and I just kind of picked some to like set up, but I'm sure you have a bunch of different kinds, and probably a lot that you've experimented with over the years.
Yeah.
How many currently, do you know?
So I have about 72 Cajun cork bottles in my tap room for sale. About 50 of those I turn around pretty readily on our online website and am able to make. Cider-specific apples are biannual. So making cider in this manner, one, they're very hard to grow. It's not like growing a Honeycrisp. They're very hard to grow. They're disease-ridden. They're pre-Cornell. So they are also biannual. So you don't have a crop every year. So you have to, in order to make certain varietals in bottle lines like that, you have to forecast that out, and you have to know where you're selling it, how much I need, how much my husband drinks. No, I'm just kidding.
How much I have to set aside
how much
for
we
him.
have to drink ourselves and sell at the tap room and so on and so forth.
Right, all the tasting and testing. Like, I'm just working. That's just part of it.
I come in I have an office above our production facility, and I'll come in and sit down at my desk, and there's all these glasses lined up for me to taste every day. Especially in the fall when we're fermenting and we're making bottled stuff with our fine cider, and so there's a lot of tasting going on all the time and tweaking and things, and microdosing the amount of carbonation, and I may not like it that day, and we're ready to bottle, and I'll tell them to put them all away, and we're going to saturate for 4 more days, and then I'm going to taste it again, and then we're going to bottle it. And that's part of that luxury of time that I have to do those things, and I think that it would be a shame not to contribute to the cider community with what I have access to and the growing knowledge that I have in our family, and this unique terroir that we grow at that produces just the most amazing flavor profiles. So it's a fun job. I mean,
I can imagine. And it seems like it's like your baby. You love what you do, which is amazing.
They're all my babies. And we have many varietals. I mean, so it's really fun.
People have to come check it out. Okay, so we're about out of time, but obviously I want people to know if they want to come visit. It's a little bit of a drive for Denver, but I feel like you can make a weekend out of it. So where you're located, and then are people able to get your ciders in stores as well?
Yeah, so we're distributed throughout Colorado in most major liquor stores on the Front Range and throughout Colorado and in several states. You can also buy online. My Cider Club members get my new released highest awarded ciders against United States, France, England, Japan, Russia, Spain, Canada.
Nice.
And some other places. So anything that I've won a best in class, a double gold or platinum on, my Cider Club members always get those bottles. It's really unique, rare French ciders, really fun. But we are distributed. We're easy to get. You can also order it online.
Awesome.
The Western Slope, for Colorado people, we like to drive and hike and go around, so it's nothing. You can come off I-70 and go right over the Grand Mesa, which is beautiful, at 300 lakes up there and lots of things. And you dead end at our little tap room. And so a lot of people do travel to our tiny town just to buy these unique and rare bottles.
That's awesome.
We have 16 canned products and, like I said, a ton of bottle products. And that's where you can find us. We're not hard to find.
I feel like I could sit here and talk to you all day because you're so knowledgeable, and this is just amazing what you've done. It seems like such a cool thing. So make sure to go check them out, whether it's in store, in person, make a weekend trip out of it. Beautiful area over there. So appreciate it so much. Clearly, your ciders are award-winning. I know you've won a lot of awards, so check it out. I'm sure people can also, because you have events throughout the summer, can people go online and just find your events?
Yeah, go to snowcappedcider.com. You can see we've got events at the tap room constantly, music, all kinds of really fun tastings and educational things. We're starting cider school where I'm teaching how to detect flaws in cider and understand different styles of cider. So that's always fun.
So a lot of stuff going on. Well, Kari, I appreciate it so much. Thanks for coming in and sharing all of your knowledge of cider with us. Make sure to check them out. Snow Capped Cider.
Thank you.